Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Skye and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my favourite palettes for spring. Now I don't necessarily think that you always need to match your makeup to the season, but springtime colours are some of my favourites. I mean, pastels for spring, groundbreaking. So I wanted to share some of my favourite colour stories for spring, and maybe this will inspire you to pull out some palettes that you already own, make your own colour stories and all that good stuff. Let's start off with the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. This is the Glamlight Cake palette. This big boy is such a beautiful rainbow palette. It's so bright, you have every single colour that you need. I am wearing the shades Raspberry and Key Lime on my lids today, the rest of the shades are single shadows. Whenever I look at this, even though it is just a rainbow palette, I do have a couple of rainbow palettes to mention, but the colour story in here and the tones are very spring-esque to me. You have almost everything that you could possibly need to do either a fun rainbow look, you could do a monochromatic look by sticking in these certain sections. This palette is so big and fun, I love it, and I really love Glamlight's formula. Their matte shadows are just perfect. Key Lime is a little bit of a bitch though, I have to say, but that's neither here nor there. And their metallics are very sparkly and beautiful and dimensional. I realized I should probably show the palettes like right front and center, but look at the beautiful shimmers. I love moving this palette in the light because you can just see how shiny those shimmers are, especially this shade. This shade's really stunning. For me, I see this palette as both a spring and a summer palette because you can go really pastel with it, but you can also go extremely intense with it. I really love the versatility of this palette, even though it's a little bit clunky and cumbersome. It's a good boy. The other rainbow palette I have to mention is the Clarisonic Sykes Box palette. It looks something like this right here. This is kind of like a pastel rainbow palette, so if you'd like to dip more into pastels over brights, this is the way to go. I especially love like this half of the palette, like the greens, the purple and blue, and the yellow. That screams spring to me, especially these tones of green, like these more sage greens. Not quite grass green, not quite lime green, but these kind of like muted sagey greens. The thing I love about Clarisonic's formula is that it's not pigmented right off the bat. It is more buildable, and that makes it so you can really control how intense these are. And I really like this palette to do more soft ethereal blends because it's perfect for that. If you're in the market for a fun rainbow palette and the Glamlight one is a little bit too intimidating for you, I highly recommend this one. This one makes me so happy. These are my favorite spring colors of all time. This is the Lethal After Dark palette. It's got your pastels in here with a pop of brightness and that nice green. I love working with this one in the spring, especially these duochromes in here like Arcade and Synth. They are magical all over the lid. And in this palette you have this deepening shade right here if you do want to make things more deeper and intense. But I really love the turquoise and the blue in here. This is a closer look at the palette, but this color story is one of my favorites. It's so inspiring. I need to whip out this palette again because I haven't used it in a while because these colors are calling my name at this time of year. Something a bit more different, I think, for spring. This is the Ace Beauté Blossom Passion palette. It's a beautiful romantic pinky red palette. And the reason why I say this is a spring palette is because whenever I think of pinks, I always most associate them with spring because of all the flowers. I mean, that could be said with any color, but pink especially for me, I really associate with spring. And I really love that you can stick with these three shades up here and do a really nice soft look, or you could pull in this red and this hot pink to make things more vibrant. The shimmers in here are very beautiful. I really love the shade Peony. It's such a beautiful pink. Another thing I really love about this palette is the fact that even though it is a pinky red palette, it's not one note. It's not very like monochromatic in that sort of sense, because you've got the reds, you have a coral, a mauve, a deep berry, an almost blackened cherry color. You've got like a corally hot pink, and you've got your cool toned pinks right here. I really love the diversity of tones within this palette, and that's really inspiring to me for spring. We're getting into the final three, and the next one is the Shroud Creepy Cute palette. Man, I love this palette so much. Again, can we see a trend? I really love color stories just like this. I feel like to make this the perfect spring palette, I would replace the black with a white and maybe the grey with another green. I really love the combination of these pastels together, and this pastel formula is the best pastel formula I've ever found, and I'm a pastel goblin, okay? I know my pastels. These are so pigmented and saturated on the lids while still being a pastel, and they don't have any wearing issues. Take a Hint is one of the most beautiful grassy greens. It's so stunning. Creep It Real as well, a fantastic turquoise. But I love pastels in springtime so much. I mean, I wear pastels all year round, I'm gonna be honest. They're my favorite tones of eyeshadow to wear. But in springtime, when things are getting lighter and brighter and the flowers start blooming, Pastels just kind of remind me of that. I also know that a lot of people associate pastels with Easter time. Now, I don't celebrate the Christian Easter, I celebrate Orthodox Easter. And our colours for Easter are normally like red and gold. So quite the opposite of this. The next two palettes are from Odin's Eye. Now we know that I'm a whore for Odin's Eye. I love them so much. And the first one is the Mini Forest palette. This is a mix of turquoises and greens with a pop of brown. I feel like with this palette and looking at the other palettes that I've mentioned, I really like turquoises and greens for spring. I really love this turquoise metallic right here, Shine. It's so wet looking and stunning. All the metallics in here are beautiful. And this one I feel like is the more neutral palette of the bunch that I've shown you today. You can create really beautiful and really easy looks with this one. Whenever I look at this color story, I know exactly what I'm going to be reaching for. If I want to do something a bit more toned down, I will go for this brown and maybe a mix of these two on the lid. If I want something a bit more bright, I'll use this in the crease, this on the lid, and then make a fun liner with the rest of them. It's a very beautiful, concise color story, and I feel like if you're just starting to get into color but you're a little bit intimidated by buying a whole rainbow palette, I think this is a fantastic option for you because you still do have those neutrals to ground your look, and these tones are very easy to work into brown toned looks. I love wearing browns with turquoises. I think that looks so stunning and really it's really beautiful. I can't explain it. I feel like this palette would be a big winner amongst a lot of different people. I mean, myself, a color lover, I still find this absolutely gorgeous. And the final palette I'm going to be mentioning is my favorite palette. I had to mention the Elva II. If you aren't new to my channel, you would know that this is my child. I love this palette with my entire being. Again, in this palette, we have a mix of the turquoises and the greens, along with some warm tones in here. And again, you can go quite neutral with this palette if you use these browns and this shade, and even this shade right here, you can make it into a really pretty neutral look. The only downside to this palette is the fact that there's two pressed glitters in here. I feel like if those weren't in the palette, this would be a, this would be a 20 out of 10. My favourite look to do with this palette is put green tea in the crease, green elves on the lid, and then put orange bonbon on my inner corner. I have done that look so many times, and it is such a beautiful pastel yet really interesting colour scheme. Anytime that I've done that colour scheme, even though it's literally just 3 eyeshadows and it's very simple, I always get compliments on my makeup whenever I do it like that. Orange and green is a very bold colour combo, but it really does work with these tones. I just love these two greens right here. Like, these are my absolute favourite tones of greens. Like, I know I mentioned the other, like, sagey greens are my favourite. These two are my favourite. I don't know the names of these greens, like, the name of the colour, but they are my favourite. Every time I wear them, they make my brown eyes stand out even more. If I had to recommend just one palette for you to go out and buy out of this lineup, it would be this palette. I mean, to be fair, I recommend this palette to literally everybody. Literally everyone. But this colour story screams the most spring to me. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully this was fun to see all of the palettes that I recommend for springtime. And hopefully this inspired you to look through your collection and create some colour stories. If you'd like to see more makeup content from me, then follow me on my Instagram. It's Beauty by Skye right here. I post all of my looks there and I'm active on there every single day. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you here. And as always, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!